Morning. I'm Alex Leclerc, husband, David Roel Leclerc. I'm a participant in SEJ as well as the SEJ lead for Pride Committee. And when we're operating, I also lead the Pride. I'll say the opening word to this morning. This President's Day, we begin with a quote from former President Barack Obama, who said, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek." In this quote about leadership, Obama quotes the title of one of Alice Walker's books, "We Are the Ones We've Been Waiting For," which was itself a quote from one of June Jordan's poems. And he riffs on the saying by Gandhi that we should be the change we seek in the world. All of these wise phrases are invitations, encouragements to own our own potential, to take initiative and work together to solve the problems that plague us and our world. Today, as ourselves, how shall we lead? Let us remember that we have more gifts, more energy, and more agency than we might think. If we cultivate our courage, if we affirm and support one another in our spiritual striving, if we remember what it is we are alive for, we can all still be leaders of transformation.
So let me just say welcome. My name's Karma Amos, and I'm honored to serve as the minister of the Unitarian Universalists of Central Delaware and to welcome you to worship. We are really grateful to have technology that allows us to come together and worship, and really, really grateful for the people who are willing to volunteer and help us with Zoom tech. And Susan, please don't feel bad. We're grateful to you for stepping up to do that. And Wendy is doing another part of our Zooming today. So thank you both for that. By way of announcements today, I'll remind you that we do have a meeting on Tuesday nights that's a little more informal than this, for people to come together and check in. That starts at 7, and we would love for you to consider joining us for that gathering. And also this week, the Board of Trustees will meet on Monday night at 6:30. Now, as we prepare ourselves for worship, let's take a deep breath together in a moment of silence. And remember this commitment that we make, that we're a community who welcomes you, whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you've been, whatever you've done, whatever your religious beliefs are or aren't, you are welcome here. However you move in this world, how much or how little is in your bank account or wallet, however you're feeling in these moments we share, you can bring all of that with you. All of who you are is welcome in this spiritual community. We're all enhanced by being together.
When we light our chalice, everybody focuses on the flame. Yet the paraffin of the candle is not always remembered, or the cotton of the wick that took a while to make or have, the potassium chloride or the sulfur of the match, or the butane of a lighter. All of it, the oxygen, the air around us, makes the flame possible. It takes the whole unit.
We just lost your sound, David.
I don't know why. The back. No. Hello.
A little bit. Okay.
Am I back yet?
Yes.
Okay. It makes the flame possible. It's a unity. As leaders, we are not called to be a lone beacon on a hill. Rather, we are meant to work together so that we might together shine, be brighter, be all connected. Please join me in the unison affirmation.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, to help one another. Please sing along in your own environment with our opening song, which is the spiritual "Come and Go With Me to That Land." This version is sung by the First Unitarian Church in Baltimore.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Don Mears, and I'm a member of UUCD. And each week at UUCD, we include a brief UU moment in our worship service that serves to make us aware of and to nurture our connection to the larger body of Unitarian Universalists and the Unitarian Universalist Association that binds us together. Today, on our theme of leadership, we highlight a wonderful resource that the UUA supports called Leader Lab. Leader Lab, and you can connect with that at uua.org/Leader Lab, is a learning community. It also supports a collection of resources for leaders who are ready to lead, but needing support and direction to do so. Leader Lab has tools for individuals who want to deepen their leadership skills, and for congregations who want to enhance the leadership potential of all their members. Some of the resource topics include congregational health and vitality, leadership training for your role in a congregation, COVID-related resources, and much more. Here at UUCD, we are eager to assist you in your exercise and enhance your leadership through your involvement at our congregation. If you would like to do more or simply receive more training as you discern where to become involved, please feel free to reach out to Reverend Karma or Wendy Pickett, who's the chair of the Leadership Development Committee. Thanks.
Good morning. I am Carrie McElwee, and I have our story for all ages this morning. This is Amelia and Her Super Magical Powers by Gail Spar. This is the story of a young girl named Amelia. Amelia was fascinated by tales of people with superpowers like Wonder Woman or magic like Harry Potter. She yearned to have powers like that so she could help people. Like the boy she often saw sitting all alone at lunch, looking very sad. If I had magic powers, I could make him smile, she said to herself. Or like the little kids who were being picked on in the schoolyard by an older girl. Ooh, superpowers would straighten her out fast, she said. And whenever she walked past the old rundown park near her house, she imagined how magic powers could fix it up so kids had a place to play. One night, as Amelia was about to fall asleep, a fairy godmother came into her room. Hello, Amelia, she said. I'm here to help you. What have you been wishing for? Oh, said Amelia, please give me some super magic powers so I can make a difference. Well, said the fairy godmother, I'm happy to give you some magic, Amelia, but oh, thank you, cried Amelia. And with that, she fell right to sleep. The next morning, when Amelia woke up, she remembered what had happened the night before. She jumped out of bed, eager to get going and test out her new superpowers. As she walked to school, she realized she'd forgotten to ask what she needed to do to release those powers. You know, say some magic words, give a high sign or something else. But she decided she'd figure it out as she went along. That day at lunch, she saw the same sad boy sitting by himself at lunch again. Let's try my magic, she said, and she wiggled her fingers from a distance. Nothing. Maybe I need to be closer, she thought. So she walked closer to him, and he looked up at her. She couldn't help but give him a friendly smile, and when she did, his face beamed with his own huge smile. Ha, thought Amelia. I really do have magic. Can I join you for lunch? She asked. Sure, he said, smiling even bigger. The two of them laughed and talked all during lunchtime. She learned that his name was Bobby. He had lost his father earlier in the year, and he and his mother had moved here after that. He didn't know anyone, and he was too shy to go up and talk to kids. Well, Amelia and Bobby became good friends, and Bobby smiled a lot more from then on. One day, soon after that, Amelia and Bobby were on the playground when they saw Karen bullying two younger kids by the swings. She had read what to do about bullies, but she'd never tried any of it before because she wasn't really sure she could do it. But now with her superpowers, she was ready. Come on, Bobby, let's go help those kids. So they walked up to where Karen stood over the two children, and Amelia wiggled her fingers at her and said loudly, Karen, stop it right now. Come on, Dodie and Lou. Come with Bobby and me. You're safe with us. After the four of them had left, Amelia told the two, if she bothers you again, just turn around and walk away. Act like you didn't hear her. Don't show any emotion. And if she keeps on trying to hurt you, let Mr. Crenshaw in the office know, and I'll go with you if you need me to. They did just as Amelia said, and Karen never bothered those kids again. Well, by now, Amelia was feeling pretty good about her super magic powers. How can I use them to fix up our old park, she wondered. Wiggling her fingers didn't work. She still didn't know any magic words. Well, maybe if I start working to clean it, something will occur to me, she said. She took trash bags to the park and started picking up trash that had been left there. Before long, a couple friends came by and asked what she was doing. I'm fixing up our park so we can play on it again. That sounded like a great idea to her friends, and they began to help her. Soon, other kids joined them. They picked up trash, pulled weeds, and cleared out dead brush. Little by little, the park began to look better. When some of the parents saw the improvement, they decided to help. Some mowed the grass, others built picnic tables, and still others convinced the city to buy some new equipment. It was hard work and it took many days, but they got their new park. When it was all done, the whole neighborhood had a picnic in their new park to celebrate. After the picnic, Amelia fell exhausted into bed. She was just about asleep when the fairy godmother came back. "Oh, I'm so happy to see you," said Amelia. "I want to thank you for giving me all those super magic powers. But I tried to tell you, my wand was broken. I didn't give you any," said the fairy godmother. "You must have given me powers," protested Amelia. "How else could I have made Bobby happy, stopped a bully, and given our neighborhood a wonderful park?" The fairy godmother just smiled. "My dear, you did that because you possess 3 powers that you developed yourself: kindness, bravery, and determination. With those 3 things, you are making a difference." And with that, Amelia fell fast asleep. It is now time of joys and concerns, when we offer one another the opportunity to share very briefly what is most on our hearts right now, life celebrations and concerns. As you do so, we invite you to light a candle in your own space. Through the action of sharing and kindling a flame, we give energy to our best thoughts, meditations, sympathies, celebrations, and prayers. We hold these as sacred in our collective hearts. We would also like to invite anyone new or returning, Chase, to our community to introduce yourselves if you'd like. We welcome you warmly and would be pleased to light a candle in honor of your connection with us and whatever joys and concerns you carry in your hearts. At this time, we invite you to change your view to gallery view in the upper right corner of your screen so that you can see everyone who is here. As you feel led, please unmute your microphone and share your joy or concern. Light your candle if you have one. You can watch the mute signals on the lower left of each person's video stream to see if anyone else is unmuted. It's best if we share one at a time. Please mute your mic after you have shared. We light one final candle for the joys and concerns that were not spoken of by those of us here, and in solidarity with others in our community who could not be with us today.
As Unitarian Universalists, a central part of our worship, in person and online, is the opportunity we all have to practice the art of generosity and the spiritual practice of gratitude. Our gifts to this congregation are what allow our communities to live into our calling and mission. We are grateful to you for the many ways you support our community, including your financial pledges and offerings. Your gifts matter, and it's one of the ways that you make this world a better place. For those of you who are making pledges or who want to contribute to UUCD, please visit uucd.org and click on Support UUCD for more information on how to donate online or by mail. But in addition, this week, we have Share the Plate. One of the ways that our congregation demonstrates our collective generosity is with our Share the Plate program, in which we benefit a local nonprofit organization that shares our values and principles and is doing wonderful work to meet the needs of our community. The way that Share the Plate works is that any donation you make to UUCD that are not designated to pay a pledge or otherwise support UUCD are donated to the charity that has been designated for the month. All donations received during that month will be given to that month's designee, from which from here on out will be announced on the first Sunday of the month. We encourage you to donate through the UUCD website rather than through the website of the organization, which in this case is going to be Code Purple. So let me just tell you a little bit about this very worthy organization. This organization tries to give people a safe and warm place to spend the night when it is really cold outside. This time last year, Code Purple had served 76 different people for overnight, which was a 35% increase over the previous year. But so far this year, 218 separate people have spent the night at their facility. So they're really needing more help. So hopefully we can give them a little assist by contributing some money. Belatedly, let me tell you that I'm Cheryl Winsby. I'm on the Social and Environmental Justice Committee and the Worship Committee. Our offertory music for today is Be the Change by Britt Nicole. Hope you enjoy it.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Russell, and I am on the Social and Environmental Justice Committee and also co-chair membership with Rose Ackerman. And today I have the opportunity to share a reading with you. This is a poem by Marge Piercy. It's entitled To Be of Use. It certainly follows along with what we just heard about to be the change. So Marge Piercy shares with us, the people I love the best jump into work head first, without dallying in the shallows, and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along. They're not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry and a person for work that is real.
In a similar way that we jumped off of Valentine's Day to talk about love last week, this week we're taking a cue from President's Day tomorrow to talk about leadership. President's Day in the US started in 1885 in recognition, first of all, of George Washington. Later it was George and Lincoln. But in 1971, the date was moved as part of the Uniform Monday Holiday Act, which created more three-day weekends for the nation's workers. And today, President's Day is popularly viewed as a day to celebrate all US presidents, those who have been, who are now, and who will be in that position of the so-called leader of the free world. Now, despite the obvious problems of that title being based in a flawed idea of American exceptionalism, it does point to the central role that leadership plays for presidents, and thus we hope a topic worthy of our consideration today. But let me be quick to point out a potential flaw in talking about leadership on President's Day, and that is that it could perpetuate the erroneous notion that leadership is only associated with presidents or major identified leaders in government or business or social movements. And that's actually the opposite of what I want to claim today. Leadership is certainly sometimes positional. That is, it comes with a title or a specific role. But I want to start with the assumption today that leadership is not nearly so elite. Rather, leadership is something relevant to all of us. After reading and studying and working in leadership development for many years, I still often go back to a very simple definition of leadership, John Maxwell's, who said, "Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less." Leadership is influence. And what's indisputable is that we all have the ability to influence the people, the communities, and the world around us. The thing that makes a leader, I think, is making the leap from acknowledging I could have influence to deciding I'm going to take responsibility to use the influence I already have on purpose for the greater good. I was reminded in the last few weeks just how much influence we do have, sometimes without ever knowing it. I've been attending a work conference on mentoring, and one of the activities that started off that conference was for each person to share a story about the person or people who had influenced their lives, people they might consider to be a mentor, even if it wasn't an official or structured mentoring relationship. And I want to ask you to think about that question for yourselves. Who's been a mentor for you? Who's helped you understand your gifts or your purpose? Who has influenced the direction of your life and activities? Who has helped you make connections that allow you to go deeper and be more effective? And importantly, how did they do that? How did they exercise that influence and leadership in your own life? And at some point later, I'd love to hear your answers. For now, let me say that in this conference, person after person after person had a powerful, often emotional testimony to share about someone who had simply opened a door for them, someone who had given them affirmation that unintentionally set a course for their lives, someone who asked them the right kinds of questions that allowed them to reflect and make important life decisions, or someone who had simply been present with them as they progressed on their life journey, especially through the most difficult times. Over and over again, these stories confirmed that sometimes those people who have made such a difference in our lives didn't even know it at the time, and many don't know it still. If leadership is influence, those people were most certainly leaders. And the point I want to make is that so are we. Each and every one of us can be a leader, a person of influence, because we do influence and impact those around us. Now, whether we know it or not, whether we're doing it intentionally or not, that's another question, one that we want to further wrestle with today. But first, we have to make sure we don't define leadership in such a narrow way that makes it applicable only to others, right? We need to plunge ourselves into the conversation, knowing that the topic of leadership is also about us, also about the choices we make or don't make, about the actions we take or don't take, about the ways in which we use our potential to be agents for positive change in our spheres of influence, however limited we may think they are. It happens that one of the most popular quotations that gets used in contemporary discussions of leadership is from a US president. Theodore Roosevelt, in a speech entitled "Citizenship in a Republic," said these very famous words. He said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the person who points out how the strong person stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the one who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But the one who actually does strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends themselves in a worthy cause, who knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if they fail, at least fail while daring greatly. It's a great quote. And of course, he's talking about what many of us know firsthand, that when you do own your leadership potential, or when you agree to fill a formal leadership role, well, you open yourself up to criticism from all manner of armchair experts. People who are not themselves trying to make a difference, but who are very happy to give their opinions about how you are doing it imperfectly. And sometimes, frankly, that just sucks. It can discourage good people from wanting to be a leader at all. But what Roosevelt was saying, and what I want to emphasize, is that we can't let that stop us from being all in, because we all lose if we allow the fear of criticism or failure to hold us back from using our gifts of leadership. And it's good to know up front, it will be uncomfortable. It will always be uncomfortable. That's simply not the greatest reason not to do it. As Marge Piercy said in our reading, the people I love the best jump into it head first without dallying in the shallows. Don't you love that? I love that imagery. And she says what's also true for me. I want to be with people who submerge in the task. We aren't meant to live life on the sidelines looking in, just observing as if it's entertainment. We're meant to be in the middle of our own lives and doing the work of the world. And that may be the place where our leadership begins to take root, when we bring our fullest selves to the needs and the tasks at hand. In what is still one of my favorite books, Parker Palmer talks about vocation and leadership. And in the introduction to the book, he talks about discovering this Quaker phrase, "Let your life speak." And incidentally, that's the title of the book. I've talked about it before. And Palmer says that he thought he knew what that phrase, "let your life speak," meant. He thought it meant something like, let the highest truths and values guide you. Live up to those demanding standards in everything you do. And he thought that because he had heroes who seemed to be doing exactly that. And so that exhortation had incarnate meaning for him. It meant living a life like that of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or Rosa Parks or Mahatma Gandhi or Dorothy Day, a life of high purpose. But at the back of his mind, he also knew that wasn't going to work. He couldn't find fulfillment in his life by trying to be or only emulate someone else, or by trying to live someone else's life. Palmer tells a Hasidic tale that reveals with amazing brevity both the universal tendency to want to be someone else and the ultimate importance of becoming oneself. And this is the story. Rabbi Zusha, when he was an old man, said, "In the coming world, they will not ask me, 'Why were you not Moses?' They will ask me, 'Why were you not Zusha?'" One of the keys to effective leadership is being rooted in your own life, your gifts, your passions, your purpose. It's not to mimic someone else's life or do things exactly the way they did it, though we should by all means always be learning. But the key is to live your own life. Do things authentically according to your unique gifts and desires, and do that with purpose that is fueled by your passions. If you do that, you will absolutely have influence and thus be exercising leadership. If you do not do that, you will still have influence, but your leadership may not be moving things in the direction of your desires. In fact, it could be doing harm. Howard Thurman said a similar thing in this way: don't ask yourself what the world needs, ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Another favorite description of mine comes from Frederick Buechner, who nuances it, saying that vocation and leadership is where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. And I wonder, where is that place for you? What is it that you want to see change in the world? Or even in the smaller area of your own family, your own circle of friends, neighbors, colleagues? What do you want to see change or improve? And are you yourself in the arena? Are you thinking about the influence that you're already having on the people, groups, and world around you? And are you using your leadership potential in ways that flow from your own gifts, convictions, and commitments? So many people are talking about this topic these days because a crisis in leadership has been identified in at least two ways. First, critical and complicated issues aren't being fully, successfully, proactively, or justly addressed. And secondly, too many people are unsatisfied with their work and they doubt their ability to create change. Karen Kimbrew, the chief economist for LinkedIn, someone with a bird's eye view of the US labor market, observes that people have been living to work for a very long time. And she thinks, as do others, that the pandemic brought this moment of reflection up for everyone. This moment to ask, what do I want to do? What makes my heart sing? And coupled with that, people are also thinking, if not now, then when? Karen and others point to what's being described as the Great Resignation or the Big Quit. You know the stories. Millions of people, more than ever before, have been leaving their jobs, deciding that they aren't content to just get by. They want more satisfaction in their lives and more meaning in their work. In short, they want to do something that makes a difference. And as people are longing for purpose, employers are finding it hard to hire employees. If they themselves aren't finding ways to recruit, empower, and support a new type of authentic, passionate, and purposeful leadership, there's a shift underfoot. In a podcast that I was listening to this week called Innovating Leadership, Nell Derek Debevoise, who's a leadership expert, was interviewed, and she said that if we needed further motivation to care about this topic, science has a compelling argument to make. Biologically, there is a benefit to having a reason to get up in the morning. She summarizes some research from UC Berkeley that if you're even one standard deviation point higher in response to the question, I know the reason for my life, that's worth 7 extra years of life expectancy. So if you have a sense of purpose in relationship to how you spend your energies and leverage your leadership potential, you are literally less likely to die. And in terms of mental health, having purpose creates resilience when difficult things happen, which they always will. It helps us move from surviving to thriving. And so the question for us today is, how shall we lead? It's an institutional question as well for us as a congregation, but I'm focusing on the personal today. How will you lead? Not as King or Gandhi or all the presidents, but as yourself, with your gifts, your passions, your purpose. There are so many inspiring examples to offer of people who've taken that question seriously and tried to answer it with action. I know we're running a little bit over, but I want to mention just a couple. One of the ones that sticks in my memory from a few years ago happened after the Parkland, Florida school shooting. X Gonzalez, at the time just 18 years old, decided to speak up on behalf of other students in their class. and the speech went viral. They said, the people in government are lying to us, and us kids call BS. Lawmakers who sit in their House and Senate seats funded by the NRA telling us nothing could have been done to prevent this, we call BS. And after that speech, which came from one decision not to remain silent, one decision not to be on the sidelines, but to give voice to their own truth and experience, that one decision launched a leader, an activist, someone who joined Twitter to say something they needed to say and gained 1 million followers in the span of 10 days. That is definitely influence, and not from a superhero with magic powers, from a regular person like you and me. Another example of leadership that's a little closer to home will be celebrated in our worship service next week. Over a decade ago, a small group of people in this area saw a need for a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a liberal religious voice and community here in Dover. And they asked that same question that was mentioned earlier. If not me, then who? If not now, then when? Every founder of this congregation made a huge difference, not only for themselves and their families by creating something they needed, but in the lives of the rest of us who have come later, and the many individuals' lives who've been touched through the ministries of UUCD. They had significant influence by simply saying, yes, I care enough to show up, and I'll keep showing up. I'll volunteer, even if I'm not sure what I'm doing, even if it might be difficult sometimes, and even if I'll mess it up, I'll volunteer because I believe in this. That's a great example of leadership, and I hope that you'll come celebrate those leaders next week as we celebrate Founders Day. My point is this: please don't underestimate or discount your leadership potential. You have opportunities to be intentional in exercising that potential in the ways that matter most to you, even if you think someone else may be more qualified. The question is not, shall we lead? We are influencing things whether we like it or not. The question is, how shall we lead? And I hope we'll all take time to reflect on the question, and that we'll choose to use our influence on purpose and for a purpose that benefits the greater good. Our closing song this morning is Fire of Commitment by Mary Catherine Mourn and Jason Shelton. And this version is led by the Unitarian Universalist Society of Grafton and Upton.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living brings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet filled by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Extinguish this flame, not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
The secret is out. We all have super magic powers. We all have the potential to be leaders in our spheres of influence. Working together, we can be the love and the change that we seek. Yes, that may be cliche, but it's also true. So may we leave the sanctuary of this beloved community reminded, encouraged, and empowered to lead with love and commitment until the better world we imagine takes shape before us. May it be so. Our virtual worship has ended, but our connection to one another and the earth and our task endures. Go blessed to be a blessing for others.